Assalamu Alaykum, guys, and welcome back to the Group Chat podcast. We've been gone for almost a year, but Alhamdulillah, we are back. And inshallah, we're starting off with a Ramadan lockdown series where we're going to be posting 2 episodes per week on Tuesday and Thursday, all about how to make the most of Ramadan, especially during this lockdown. So, inshallah, you guys can support, make sure you follow, make sure you listen, and inshallah, you all gain some kind of benefit. For episode 1 of the Ramadan lockdown series, we've got our brother Mudassar on the call. Mudassar, do you want to introduce yourself, bro?
Assalamu Alaykum wa rahmatullah, guys. Hope you're all doing well and you're having a blessed and successful Ramadan so far.
Inshallah. So what we're going to discuss for our first episode is how to make the most of Ramadan while still working. So the problem, we think, how can we manage a 9 to 5 while making the most of this blessed month? So that's what we're going to talk about, inshallah. And we'll start off with the biggest bugbear, sleep. So obviously we're all up late night and we're waking up early in the morning, and then we still have to be at work for 9. Obviously the lockdown kind of helps, but we still have to wake up 8:30, 9:30 for some people. How do we manage that sleep schedule? Mudassar, what have you got on the sleep schedule?
Like you mentioned, lockdowns made things very, very easy. For a lot of people, it's their first year working in Ramadan full time. First year doing full-time office jobs or whatever they're doing. So I think with sleep, the most important thing, like with every aspect of your work life, is planning. So knowing that, for example, I'm going to read my Taraweeh at 10 p.m. I'm going to finish my Taraweeh by 11:30, and at midnight, I'm going to be asleep. I'm going to shut down.
Wait. What did you say? Finish your Taraweeh at 11:30, did you say?
You should be taking your time reading your Taraweeh.
Yo, banging Taraweeh. We're all at home, you know?
Yeah, bro.
I'm reading my
just...
Quds and I'm reading my Quds and I'm going to bed, but no, I'm joking.
No. You gotta be. Come on, bro. Ramadan, once in a lifetime opportunity.
No, but I think on average, especially people at home, I think people are spending an hour,
45 minutes max.
Yeah,
45
less
minutes
than
max.
Man said an hour and a half football match.
No, just being prudent. You never know. No, but that encompasses everything, right? So some people do like read the Quran, they do askar, they do whatever, right? So 11:30, you've got all your religious obligations out of the way. Then maybe take a bit of time to get a breather, get a snack, whatever you want to do. And then by midnight say, yep, I'm going to be asleep by midnight. Now, obviously it's tough. Me personally, I don't sleep a lot as it is. So, it might come as slightly hypocritical, but
this was
it's
even
really,
before
really,
Ramadan for you, man.
Yeah, even before Ramadan. So everyone works differently. So some people would prefer getting 3-4 solid hours of sleep and they're happy and they're good to go. Some people need 6, 7, 8 hours, and everyone works differently. And only you know how best you work for yourself, how best your body works for you. But if you're someone who needs sleep, which is a lot of people, which is quite common, it's quite normal, just getting planned and setting your time aside properly, putting your phones away, putting your books away, whatever it is, closing your eyes, and just letting your body get the rest it needs. That's the first part. Then you wake up for suhoor, and this is a problem that I was talking about yesterday on Mini-Deed as well, which was, some people, actual soldiers, they're having full curry, rice, chapati, paratha, the whole shebang.
How people do that. No idea how people do that.
So I don't know how they do it and go to sleep, but even for me, if I have like toast or whatever, I still need to be up for a good hour or so to let it go down. So if you're someone like me who, it takes a bit of time for your food to digest or to go down before you can lie down, just set that in, use that time productively, depending on what you're doing. So most people will be working from home. So that means the job you're doing allows you to work from home. If you feel like you're quite awake, you're quite active at that time, start working. Get things done, get things ready just before you're going to log in at 9 o'clock. And, it probably fits into the next part of the podcast around managing your timetable at work and your schedule. But if you're lucky enough to have flexible working arrangements where you can start at 10, 10:30, 11, or whatever works for you, that gives you an edge. So once you're logged in at 10:30, 11, you're already ahead of your curve. You know what you're doing. You've got your lie-in. You don't feel that guilty. equally on the opposite side. If you're someone who, you know what, I'm not going to work at 5 o'clock in the morning. What is this guy on about? Like, if you're not like that, fair enough. You know, spend your time wisely again. You know, read the Quran, do some activity that's not mind numbing, and at the same time, it's not too interactive. It's just keeping you in a good stead, and get your sleep in and put your alarms on. So I'm a very heavy sleeper because I sleep so less. I'm sleeping 3 to 4 hours a day. I'm conked out. Like, you know, my phone could be ringing. Like when I was in India last year on my first night there, I was
Yeah.
hella jet lagged. Imagine my mum and dad were ringing both my phones. They phoned the hotel. The hotel was ringing the hotel phone. Someone was knocking on my door and I still hadn't woken up.
Heavy sleeper,
20
boy.
minutes, 20 minutes. I woke up and there's just like alarms ringing everywhere. The mobile's ringing, bedside phones ringing, the door alarms ringing. I go open the door and the guy's like, "Oh, we're trying to wake you up." So if you're someone, you know, if you're a heavy sleeper, make sure you got your alarm set. And if you're at home, you're lucky because, you know, you've got parents, friends, spouses, whatever to wake you up to. But it's really important you get your sleep, and it's really important that you plan your sleep like you would plan any other part of your working day.
I think you made a very, very good point about maybe changing your work hours. Inshallah,
Yeah.
if your manager or team are flexible, you know, if you're active and willing to work at 5, 6 o'clock to maybe 7, 8, and then sleeping until 10, 11, that is a possibility rather than going to sleep at 5, waking up at 8, and then cracking on with a full day's work. So alhamdulillah, that's regarding the sleep schedule requires some kind of organization and discipline. But most importantly, that communication with your team, alhamdulillah. Moving on to how to manage your workload. So, for example, I'm going to ask you the question. We've had 2 days of Ramadan during work so far, Friday and now today, Monday. At times for myself, I think I'd rather be, you know, reading Quran or listening to a class or, you know, memorizing something like that rather than, you know, responding to emails or, you know, doing a deck for a presentation. How do you battle that? Because that's something that even I'm thinking, you know, I've tried to get 2 of my laptops together and I'm trying to multitask, but then I can't focus on any. So what's the mindset that someone should have?
So I think you need to take a step back here, right? And first, going back to realizing why you're working, what you're working towards, what your job entails, both in terms of the dunya, so practical, you know, gives you money to feed yourself, to clothe yourself, to shelter yourself, but also in terms of akhirah, right? As Muslims, Islam isn't just a ritual-based religion. It's not praying 5 times a day and fasting 30 times a year. Islam is a manual for life. And alhamdulillah, having a job, it's a huge blessing. It's a means to earn a livelihood, build your knowledge, build your skills, experience. You know, for a lot of people, it's getting that much needed self-confidence boost and ultimately being self-sufficient. But like you said, in Ramadan, a lot of us, myself included, sometimes we feel our jobs get in the way of things, from like sleep, having to wake up early, to getting home just before iftar. Obviously, that's not a problem this year where everyone's at home. But in previous years, getting home for iftar used to be a struggle for people. And then not being able to spend the last third of the night, the most important part of the night, in qiyam or in his remembrance, or not being able to spend the day reciting the Quran or learning the seerah or dialing into the amazing classes going online. However, if we just pause for a second, right, we tend to forget that earning a halal tayyib rizq in order to fulfill and fill our stomach, and of those whose duties are entrusted upon us, so our spouses, our parents, our children, it's such a noble deed. You know, it's something for which we're rewarded, and that too not lightly. So imagine we all spend approximately 8 hours a day at work every day. That's 480 minutes every day that we're spending in an action, doing something that is gaining us reward, gaining us ajr, gaining us hasanat. In Ramadan,
Alhamdulillah.
you know, we say our goods are multiplied by at least 70 times just by Allah's mercy. So imagine those 480 minutes from one day, that's 33,500 minutes of reward you're getting every day just by being at work.
SubhanAllah.
And insane. If you think about it for a second, 33,500 minutes worth of reward, 70 days worth of reward in one day, just by doing something I would do every day.
Yeah.
And how does one get that reward? It's by fixing your intention. Imam Bukhari's first hadith in his manual, which is Sahih Bukhari that we know, the first hadith in there is innamal a'malu binniyah. Every action is dependent on intention. And there's a reason why he chose that as his first hadith. I remember listening to a lecture where the whole lecture was based on why did Imam Bukhari choose this hadith as the first hadith in his manual. And it's because the entire premise of our faith revolves around this one hadith, which is every action we do or inaction we do is totally dependent on the intention. The way we have our intention set in our heart is how we will be rewarded / punished for an action. So as a Muslim, if my intention is I'm going to work to earn a halal tayyib rizq, to be self-sufficient, to feed my family a halal tayyib rizq, to increase my knowledge, to be able to earn enough to help those Muslim brothers and sisters of humanity who need help across the world, who don't have access to the education I had access to, who don't have access to the amenities I had access to. If these are all our intentions for working, both in and outside of Ramadan, every single day becomes a mean of earning reward. And that's insane. Of course, we all want to read Quran, we all want to learn the seerah, take part in lessons, speak to our friends, spend time with our family, cook for our family, whatever we want to do. But let's not forget that, especially in times like this, where so many millions of people across the world don't have a job.
Yeah.
So many millions of people are struggling, real life struggles. I see it at work every day. People are actually being made redundant, people are being furloughed, people are getting sacked, whatever's happening. To have a job in such an environment,
It is a
and
blessing,
then
alhamdulillah.
knowing that not only are you getting worldly benefit of having food and shelter and all of these amenities, but in your akhirah as well, it's going to weigh heavy on your scale, knowing that you had the right intentions. And for me, that's how I tackle that Ramadan dilemma of, do I work or do I spend time learning the Quran or doing this? And it goes back to that first point I made about planning. If you plan your day and your time properly, you'll find that you have ample time for work, you have ample time for the Quran, you have ample time for your family. But it's always important that you're planning.
Alhamdulillah, I think that was beautifully put. Jazakallah khair. And exactly why I wanted to get you on this podcast, to share beneficial advice just like that. If we move on, our intentions are sincere. However, we still want to, read the Quran, complete a khatam of the Quran, learn a lecture, memorize. Where do we fit that within this busy schedule around work?
So it depends. It's very dependent on each person and each person's scenario and circumstances. But if we take it from a general point of view, people work 9 to 5, quite rigid. Start at sharp at 9, pretty much sharp at 5, they'll log off, done for the day. If you just go with that timetable, 5 o'clock you're done, your fast opens at 8 o'clock. Now let's just say you're helping with the cooking, or you are the one cooking. So probably 7:15 is when you start getting into the kitchen, start prepping up. So you've got 2 solid hours from 5 to 7, which you decide what you want to do. Now, personally, I'd say the first half an hour, you just take it to relax, get away from a screen, take some time out, do whatever you want to do in that time. Read a book, sit in the garden, talk to your family members, whatever it is, just so you can, reset and refresh. But then from 5:30 to 7 o'clock, that's really, really important time. It's 90 minutes. It's a lot of time. That's when you can, get your one juz for the day read. Or, if there's a lecture that you missed online and it's now on YouTube, listen to that lecture. And then subsequently, even after your iftar, you've got a good time before Isha starts. You've got about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. Again, making use of that time. A lot of us will use that time to, catch up with our friends, catch up with our family members, especially now, where you can't meet your cousins and wider family members for iftar. You'll do catching up with them. What did you make? What did you have for iftar? What's going on? Which is good. It's healthy. It's normal. Maintaining kinship with family members and your community is part of Islam as well.
Definitely, yeah.
So it's remembering that you're getting rewards for that too. And then ultimately setting yourself real tangible goals. If you're someone who's struggling to read the Quran, knowing that for every word you read, you're getting double the reward as per the hadith of the Prophet. For someone who struggles, they get double the reward, one for reading, one for trying. But
Yeah.
if you're someone who struggles, and it takes you, let's say, 2 hours to read a juz of the Quran, you know that in 1.5 hours you're not going to be able to do it. So setting yourself a goal, the goal isn't, okay, I need to hit one khatam of the Quran. It's not a race or a competition or anything like that. The ultimate aim is to read the Quran and learn from the Quran, to listen to a lecture and learn and implement the lecture. The scholars say that even if you were to read a verse with the correct intention, correct heart, correct state of mind, that's such a heavy action on your scale on the day of judgment. So
A
knowing,
brother, yeah.
no, go.
A brother once told me, and this piece of advice stuck with me, especially now that I've started work, and that battle of finding time to dedicate, especially during the month of Ramadan as well. The month of Ramadan is about time, finding deeds that you can keep consistent even after Ramadan. So
Exactly.
you know how we this one juz a day, right? It becomes, if you miss a day, if you miss another day, you start getting stressed. You start thinking, I'm behind, and it might even put you off and think, you know what, this Ramadan is not for me. Maybe next Ramadan that I'll complete the Quran,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But even if you can dedicate 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour to reading the Quran, that is better than nothing, and that is consistent. Every single day, if you dedicate a small portion of your day to the Quran, this is something that you can take, because it's consistent. This is something it is easier to take even after the month of Ramadan. And that is the point. That is the point of this month, to go on this spiritual high, and then after the Ramadan, you're higher than where you were when you came in.
Exactly.
Inshallah.
Exactly. And it goes back to that point of the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ says,
Sallallahu
the
Alaihi
best
Wasallam.
deed is the one that is done regularly, even if it's
Yes.
few.
Yeah.
And in terms of Quran, the best practical advice I can give everyone is to recite Surah Mulk at night. It's 30 verses. It takes from 5 minutes to 15 minutes at max.
Yeah.
And it's something that you can do in Ramadan, definitely, because everyone wants to read the Quran in Ramadan. But even outside of Ramadan, after your Isha, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, you read it, and you're saving yourself from the torment of the grave.
Yeah.
And the best part about it is, once you're reading it daily, within a month, if not 2 months, if not 3 months, you'll automatically memorize it without even trying. Because you've done it so often, it'll just, it'll flow from your tongue without you realizing. So that's one practical tip I definitely give everyone is, take up Surah Mulk.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned a very well-known hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about the small and consistent deeds. I think sometimes maybe we overlook certain hadith because we think it's maybe like cliche, and yeah, that's the hadith. Or, there's one about looking after an orphan, and the Prophet ﷺ puts his two fingers close together, and maybe we
Yeah.
look past it, but maybe we look past because of how simple it sounds. And no, Islam is meant to be complicated. I'm meant to be doing 2 juz. I'm meant to be memorizing a lot every single day. It is not.
Exactly. And Islam, like I mentioned, we got at the beginning, Islam's not limited to actions of worship. Islam is a manual for life, and it tells you how to interact from the moment you are born till the moment after you have passed away. Islam is a manual for your entire life. So limiting Islam and limiting rewards just to the basic act of worship which we know, which is the Quran and the Salah and fasting, it's something that we've done upon ourselves, and it's the reason why so many of us are so far away from the religion, because we've lost that spiritual essence of the religion. We've made it really archaic. We've made it really practical, when religion is spiritual, religion is practical, it's emotional, it's meant to connect with every aspect of your life. Religion's meant to be there at the forefront.
Alhamdulillah. So with the little time we have left, I wanted to touch on, as we're talking about working during Ramadan, I wanted to touch on how we explain Ramadan to our colleagues. So obviously we've all had the not even water remark. I literally had it on Friday, not even water, and I
Yeah,
was just smiling.
yeah.
So when someone asks you, what is Ramadan and why do you observe Ramadan? What do
Mhm.
you say?
So it's actually a funny story. So about 2 years ago, I was sitting in
Yeah,
a client room with my whole team, and it was Ramadan. I think it was just the first day of Ramadan, and everyone's going down for lunch.
yeah,
And everyone knows that it's Ramadan started because our firm's quite good. We get a lot of communication around it and stuff.
hmm
But one manager, she was quite new. She was from up north, like a little village area.
yeah,
And she's like, "Oh, you coming for lunch?" I'm like, "No, it's Ramadan." She's like, "What's Ramadan?" And to me,
hmm
this was the first time I've been in an area where someone actually has no idea what Ramadan is. Like, poor her, she actually went pink because everyone in the room was like just looking at her like, "What do you mean?" Like, she actually went completely pink. She's like,
She thought she
"What's
was about
Ramadan?"
to get slapped with the HR case. But
Yeah, she did because she's like, "Did I say something bad?" She's like, "Sorry, sorry, did I say anything?" I'm like, "Nothing bad, right?" And then to her, the way I explained it was, it's part of my faith. Every year for 30 days, we abstain from food and water from dawn to dusk. And there's many reasons for it. One of the reasons is it spiritually uplifts us. When you don't have food and water, it spiritually uplifts us. It's
Mhm.
got practical health benefits, as we all know. And I was lucky I was in a healthy team. They were talking about, intermittent fasting within. I
Intermittent
said,
fasting, yeah, that's my go-to.
so I explained how, there's health benefits. Then I also explained about the charity aspects of Ramadan, how
Yes, yeah.
when we're hungry, when we're thirsty, when our lips are chapped, and when we're going through struggles and we have no sleep, and we think about those people less fortunate in the world who, for whatever reason, don't have access to food, clean water, stay hungry, pretty much fast throughout their lives just because of the lack of food. It's a
Mhm.
time where Muslims really dig deep into the pockets and give charity. And above all, I explained Ramadan as thinking of it as a spiritual reset every year and a spiritual rejuvenation we're doing every year for
Yeah.
our soul and for our body and for our mind. And it got to a stage where she was so fascinated by hearing about Ramadan that she actually kept a fast for a day.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I think the best way to explain Ramadan to your colleagues is talk about all these practical things that you've learned about in the mosques and from your families about oh, if we feel like the poor people, we can relate more to them, health benefits. But I'd always say, if you can, suggest your colleagues to fast for a day, whether that's from dawn to dusk, whether that's from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock, whether that's from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, whatever it is. And the reason why I say ask your colleagues to do it and post it as like a fasting challenge or something, where you get
Mm.
like a little gift or a little prize or a box of dates or whatever it is, an Amazon voucher, is because once they fast, they actually realize themselves of how easy it becomes,
Yeah.
when you know that I'm doing this for this reason, how easy it becomes, how it affects your mood, how it affects your work output, etc.
Mhm.
So set targets for your teams, or if you're someone who's new, who's a bit scared, oh, how do I tell my manager or my partner or my director in my team to fast for a day? I kid you not, right? People at the top are the nicest, and they're at the top for a reason. They're not
Yeah.
at the top because they're rude. Very rare cases. I'll
Rare,
take that
right?
back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Very, very, very rare cases that you find people like that. And unless you don't ask people, unless you don't tell people, you'll never know. As
Yeah.
Muslims, dawah is part of our faith.
Mhm.
Helping others accept the religion, helping others know about Islam. And what
Yeah.
better way to do dawah than, get your colleagues involved? People you're spending 8 hours a day, every day, for God knows how long.
My advice with that on that topic would just be to not put barriers and walls around yourself and say like, Ramadan is a Muslim thing and you
Hmm.
guys won't understand and I'm not going to talk about it. Rather
Yeah.
be open, and even if they are ignorant or literally like know nothing about it, like that the manager in your example,
Yeah.
it's you can't blame them for their
Hmm.
lack of understanding. They haven't had
Definitely.
the
Definitely.
education that you have. And I see it as a duty, seeing as though maybe we would be like the SME, subject matter expert coming in. It's our duty to share the information that we know, and represent Islam in a good light. So
Exactly. Like,
yeah,
a lot of us, sometimes we forget that we think that we only give invitation to Islam, or we only give dawah to people that are really know a lot about Islam, or they're very nice people. That's why we want to make them Muslims. Like, if you just remember the story of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, he left his house with the intention to kill the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it was his sister who gave him dawah through the Quran, through reading the words of God, that changed his heart. If his sister was thinking, you know what, this guy is going to kill my Prophet, forget him. I'm not going to speak to him. I'm not going to interact with him. That Umar wouldn't have become a Muslim. And it's so relevant to today, where you might think, oh, my colleague is so far away from Islam. He or she drinks a lot, parties a lot, does this a lot, whatever. Doesn't mean, Islam's open for everyone. And until you don't spread that message, until you don't tell people about the message of Islam, you can't expect people to learn and people to know about your religion.
This is not saying to like aggressive preach towards your colleagues. Definitely
start giving verses. Hey, I
It's
proved
not
the existence of God.
It's more just being open, being friendly. And you know what I'd say, in this month of Ramadan, because they know you're fasting, they know how people get hangry and how difficult it is. If we
Hangry,
that's a term. What are you talking about? That is a full term. Hungry and angry. Hangry. God, hey, don't try it. Anyway, if we try and actually increase in our positivity and openness and politeness and gratitude and just the positive vibes, we'd be doing even more so. Our colleagues will be looking at us, they're fasting, they're abstaining from food, water, sleep in most cases, and they are still, cheerful, still happy, and still, a positive member of our team. So
definitely.
that's a challenge for us all, inshallah.
Yeah, because ultimately, right, at work, if you like it, you might not like it, you are an ambassador of Islam. You might be pious, you might not be pious, you might be someone who prays 5 times a day, you might be someone who never prays. If you like it, you don't like it, as long as you are a Muslim, to your non-Muslim colleagues, you are an ambassador of Islam. So the way you act, the way you interact, your actions, everything you do is a representation of your of your faith.
Yes.
So when people see you acting in a way, delivering good work, they're like, this guy's really good. And the first thought, it's just natural, it's normal for you to think, oh, it's because of his upbringing, it's because of his culture, because of his religion, things like that. And on the flip side, if you're someone who's, rude to people, you're shutting people up, you're shutting people down, your colleagues want to learn more, because people always want to learn more about people's religions and things like that. It's interesting topics, right? But when we did a survey within our workplace, most people came back and said they want to know more, but they're scared because they don't want to offend someone. Especially with all the HR cases we see about, right? People want to ask, why you fast? Why you fasting? They want to ask, why you fasting, but they don't want to offend you, right?
Yes, yeah.
So start those conversations. Make it easy for your non-Muslim colleagues to learn more about Islam and Ramadan.
Inshallah. Yeah, well, with that, I'm going to end the episode. I think we've just gone over 30 minutes. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair, Muds, for sharing the beautiful advice that you have shared. Inshallah, it provides.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course, man. Inshallah, it provides people with benefit, and it is practical for them. Inshallah, they can use it in their workplace. So yeah, that is the first episode of our group chat podcast Ramadan lockdown series. We are back. So even after Ramadan, we'll be posting episodes every week. In Ramadan, we're doing 2 episodes a week. Our next episode will be on Thursday with Wasim from Human Relief Foundation. He'll be covering how to fundraise. So yeah, that's that. Assalamu Alaykum.
Looking forward to that episode, inshallah.
Inshallah. Assalamu Alaykum, guys.